I'm Alex, 32 years old, and up until a few months ago, I thought I was doing the right thing by taking care of my family. I'm not a flashy guy. I work in cybersecurity, and while the job is demanding, it pays well, enough that I've been able to live comfortably and help out my parents here and there. At first, it was small stuff: groceries, a new washer, covering a few surprise bills. They were grateful back then. Or maybe I just wanted to believe they were. Last year, I got a big bonus, 6 figures. A combination of long hours, good timing, and a successful project that landed our firm a major client. When I told my parents, they were proud. Or at least they acted like it. My mom got teary, hugged me, said I was her miracle kid, and my dad gave one of those stiff shoulder pats that pass for affection in our family. They didn't ask for anything, but I knew they were struggling with the mortgage on the house. Retirement hadn't gone the way they'd hoped, and I figured if I could lift that weight off their backs, maybe they'd finally get a break. So, I did it. Paid off the mortgage in full. Quietly. No grand announcement, no strings. I even sent them on a 2-week cruise to Alaska as a surprise, first-class everything. My mom had always dreamed of seeing glaciers. My dad pretended not to care, but he told my aunt on the phone he hadn't felt that relaxed in years. It made me feel useful. Like maybe for once I wasn't just the quiet kid with the boring job. The first red flag should have been how quickly word spread. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years started texting me random check-ins, "Have you been?" messages, subtle inquiries about my job. I brushed it off. Maybe they were just being friendly. Maybe I wanted to believe that. Because the truth? I was starved for their approval. I thought that if I kept giving, they'd finally see me. Then came the family reunion. It was the first one in over a decade, hosted at my Aunt Sharon's massive backyard. There were folding chairs, tents, even a rented bouncy castle for the kids. I showed up in a button-down and jeans, a couple of bottles of wine in hand. I'd driven 3 hours after a long work week, but I was genuinely excited. I figured it would be a chance to reconnect. My parents had come back from the cruise glowing, mom tanned and chatty, dad relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. At first, things were fine. I mingled, caught up with cousins, ate some really overcooked ribs. Then I overheard it. I had just stepped behind the tent near the drinks table, looking for a cooler with actual water instead of just soda and beer. That's when I heard my mom's voice, loud and clear, coming from the next cluster of chairs. "He's just our wallet with legs," she said, laughing. "Honestly, if he ever stops paying, I don't know what we'll do." Laughter followed. Not just hers, my aunt's, even my dad's. My heart didn't drop right away. It froze. Like my brain needed a second to translate the words into meaning. Wallet with legs. I stayed behind the tent. I didn't move. Just stood there while they went on chatting. My mom talked about the cruise, how great it was, how she might nudge Alex into booking another one next year. My aunt joked about how I was like a trust fund without the trust. My dad chimed in with some line about me always being too quiet to say no. I didn't confront them. I wish I could say I stormed out or made a scene, but I didn't. I just walked back to my car, told my cousin I had to head out early, and drove home in silence. I didn't even turn on the radio. Just the hum of the tires and that phrase echoing in my head, wallet with legs. When I got home, I stared at my phone for a long time. Part of me hoped I'd misheard. Maybe it was a joke? A bad one? But deep down, I knew. It wasn't new. That wasn't the first time they talked like that. Just the first time I'd heard it out loud. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the missed birthdays when I was a kid because my parents were working double shifts. About how I spent my 20s grinding through certifications so I could make sure they'd never have to work like that again. About how, even as an adult, I never felt enough. Not smart enough, not outgoing enough, not impressive enough, but useful? That I could be. They'd let me believe that was love. The next morning, I got up early and made some quiet moves. Froze the joint savings account I'd opened with them when they were having trouble budgeting. Canceled the automatic transfers for their utilities, the ones I'd set up, just until they got ahead. I'd even been paying their car insurance for over a year. That got canceled too. Then I filed a password change across every shared account they'd ever had access to: my streaming services, Amazon, even my grocery delivery account they liked to use when mom didn't feel like cooking. It wasn't rage. It wasn't petty. It was quiet, cold, calculated. And I went to bed that night with my phone on silent. When I woke up the next morning, I saw the screen glowing. 87 missed calls, 15 voicemails, 26 unread messages. The group chat was a war zone. My mom had messaged first, "Alex, There's a problem with the electric bill. Did you forget to send it? Then, Alex, I think something's wrong with the bank. Your dad's card isn't working. Then, are you ignoring us? And finally, in all caps, Alex, you need to fix this now. This isn't funny. I sat there in bed, phone still buzzing every few seconds, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like a bad son. I felt free. Then my brother called. Now, my brother never calls. Ever. If he reaches out, it's because he needs something or wants to brag. But this time, his voice was tight. Dude, what did you do? I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the ceiling. They're freaking out, he continued. Mom's crying. Dad's pacing. She said you're cutting them off? Why? I said nothing. And then he muttered something under his breath that made everything crystal clear. She said you're punishing them over a joke. Man, you know how she is. Don't take it so personally. That was it. That was the moment everything inside me crystallized, because it wasn't just a joke. It was years, decades, of being used, overlooked, quietly depended on while being treated like I didn't matter beyond my paycheck. So I finally spoke. Tell Mom, I said, my voice steady, the wallet's closed. And I hung up. That was 2 days ago. Since then, the messages have shifted from anger to confusion to desperate bargaining. And just this morning, a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach twist. It was my father. His face was red. His jaw was clenched. And behind him, my mother, holding a stack of bills. And I knew right then, the real reckoning hadn't even started yet. I didn't open the door right away. I just stood there, watching them through the peephole, the kind of eerie calm you get when you're way past anger. My mom knocked again, sharper this time, her knuckles bouncing off the wood like she was entitled to an answer. My dad didn't move. He just stood there, arms folded, staring at the ground like he was rehearsing what to say. I opened it. Not wide, just enough to see them clearly. My mom didn't waste a second. Alex, this isn't funny anymore. We need to talk. Her tone was clipped, commanding. Not a trace of guilt, just urgency. Like I was the one who had messed up, like I'd forgotten to take out the trash or missed a dentist appointment. I didn't invite them in. Instead, I leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed. What do you want to talk about? I asked flatly. She blinked at me, then held up the papers, electric bills, internet invoices, a notice from the bank. You froze the accounts. Canceled everything. Why? My dad finally spoke. Son, if you had a problem, you should have come to us. I stared at them. I mean, really stared at them. For the first time, I wasn't filtering anything to spare their feelings. You said I was just a wallet with legs, I said. My mom's mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. It was a joke, she said quickly. We were just playing around. You're taking it way too seriously. I nodded slowly. Right. So just to be clear, me covering your mortgage, your groceries, your vacations, your insurance, that was real. But your gratitude? That was the joke. Dad frowned. It's not like that. No, I said, stepping out a little. Then tell me what it is like. They exchanged a look, and for a split second, I thought they might apologize. I mean, really apologize. But my mom's lips curled into something half repentant, half defensive. You know how we are, she said. We tease. But you're our son. We love you. I tilted my head. Would you say that to a stranger who paid off your debt? That you love them while laughing behind their back? Her face tightened. That's not fair. Oh, I said, smiling without humor, but calling me a wallet with legs is? She dropped the bills to her side with a sigh. Look, we messed up. You made your point. So can we stop this and just go back to normal? Normal. That word hit me like a punch to the ribs. I thought about every holiday where I was expected to foot the bill. Every time they'd tell me, you're the successful one, while never once asking how I was actually doing. Every text I got that started with, hey, quick favor, and ended with me wiring money. I took a deep breath. There is no normal anymore, I said. Not for me. Not if normal means being used and laughed at. You didn't just cross a line. You built your whole retirement plan on me, and then mocked me for it. My dad bristled. That's not true. Really? I said, eyes narrowing. What's your plan now, Dad? You've been retired for 3 years. If I stop paying your utilities, what happens? If I stop filling the fridge, if I don't book your doctor's appointments, if I'm not the wallet anymore, what exactly is your plan? Silence. My mom started to speak, but I cut her off. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did this because you needed to feel it. The way I've felt for years. Invisible. Expected. Used. You say you love me, But you only ever called when you needed something. Now it was my mom's turn to bristle. That's not fair. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. This is just you paying it forward. There it was. That old, familiar line. The family's favorite debt trap. I nodded, lips pressed tight. You know what? I said. I've more than paid it forward. I paid it with interest, late fees, and compound guilt. And now? I'm closing the account. Permanently. Her jaw dropped. My dad looked like he'd just been slapped. We're your parents, she said. And I was your son, I replied, not your investment. I turned and walked back inside. Didn't slam the door. Didn't shout. Just closed it. Quietly. Finally. They stood there for a while. I watched from the window. My mom shook her head like she still didn't get it. My dad said something I couldn't hear, and they both walked off, their bills clutched in her hands like props in a bad play. The next few days were chaos. I got texts from cousins, guilt-tripping me for making mom cry. My aunt messaged me a long rant about family obligations. Someone even tagged me in a Facebook post that said, "Money changes people." They were right. It did change me. Not because I got rich, but because I realized I was more than a credit card in human form. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn love with money. But love that needs a receipt isn't real. Then, silence. For 4 days. And on the 5th, an envelope showed up under my door. No return address. Just my name, scrawled in my mom's tight, loopy cursive. Inside was a letter. 5 pages. Handwritten. No jokes. No sarcasm. Just raw, shaky words. It started with, "I didn't know you were hurting. I thought you were just quiet. I'm sorry we made you feel like a bank instead of a son." But the part that really made me sit down was the last line. "If you never speak to us again, I'll understand. But if you do, I want to meet the version of you I never took the time to know." I sat there for a long time, letter in hand, thinking, wondering, was it real? Was it too late? And then my phone buzzed. A new message. This time, not from my mom, not from my dad, but from my cousin Sarah. "Hey, heard what happened. Just wanted to say, you did the right thing. I've been through it too, if you ever want to talk." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I didn't reply to Sarah right away, but her message sat differently in my chest than the others had. It didn't come with a price tag. No guilt, no demands, no, but there's still your parents' speech. Just acknowledgement, understanding, and that simple offer, if you ever want to talk. I bookmarked it in my mind like a note left on the nightstand, not urgent, but there if I needed it. That night, I reread the letter. Twice. I noticed the smudges near the bottom of page 3, teardrops maybe, or just a shaky hand dragging ink. And I realized something odd. My mom had written the word sorry 6 times, each one with different phrasing, some awkward, some oddly formal. But they were there. That was new. Still, I didn't call. I didn't write back. Because sorry is easy when someone's pulled the plug on your comfort. I went about my week. Focused on work. Took longer walks. Got my own groceries for once without buying for a household I didn't live in. On Friday, I bought myself a chair. Just a stupid chair, big, ridiculous, cushiony. I'd wanted one for years but always put it off because there was always a more important expense. Usually theirs. When it arrived, I sat in it for 2 hours straight. Just sat. No emails. No calls. Just me and a book and the quiet hum of a life that, for once, wasn't running at someone else's pace. Then, late Saturday afternoon, I got a knock at my door. Not pounding. Not frantic. Just a knock. I checked the peephole out of habit, heart thudding in that old familiar way. It wasn't my parents. It was my cousin Sarah. She was holding 2 iced coffees and a manila folder. I opened the door, stunned. "Figured you'd need caffeine," she said, offering a drink with a wry smile. "Also figured you wouldn't open the door if I texted first." I stepped aside and let her in. Sarah had always been the quiet one at family parties, older than me by a few years, divorced young, moved out of state. We never talked much growing up, but there was always a calm about her, like she'd seen too much to get worked up about the usual chaos. We sat at my kitchen table. I didn't ask about the folder. Not right away. Instead, we talked. About small things. Work. Life. Why she moved back home. The iced coffee was stronger than I expected, and halfway through it, I finally asked, "So, what's in the folder?" She tapped her nails on it for a second, then slid it toward me. "Receipts," she said simply. I raised an eyebrow. "Financial ones," she added. "From my time as the family's favorite bank." I opened it. Inside were printed statements, bank transfers, annotated notes, payments made on behalf of my aunt, rent she'd covered for our grandmother, an invoice from years ago for a down payment she'd made on behalf of her younger sister, who'd conveniently forgotten to ever pay her back. I got out a few years ago, she said. Cut them off cold. Didn't speak to most of them for a long time. They still call me bitter. But you know what? She looked me straight in the eyes. It was the best decision I ever made. I flipped through the pages, stunned at the similarity. The same pattern, family in need, generous gesture, escalating expectation, followed by guilt when the well ran dry. They made you feel like the bad guy when you stopped, I said quietly. She smirked. Of course. Because we ruined the plan. I closed the folder and leaned back. I thought it was just me, I admitted. They always make it feel that way, she said. That's the trick. You're not allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to say no. And when you finally do, you're ungrateful, difficult, broken. I nodded slowly. Sarah didn't stay long. She left the folder with me, said it might help to see it on paper, to realize this wasn't a one-time slip. It was a pattern, generational, polished, and so good at wearing the mask of love. As I walked her to the door, she turned to me and asked something I didn't expect. Do you ever wonder what your life would look like, she said, if they just loved you without keeping score? I didn't answer. Because yeah, I'd wondered. I was still wondering. After she left, I went back to my new chair, folder in hand. I spent the next hour rereading every page Sarah gave me, then laid it all out on the table like evidence in a trial. And I realized something. This wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about control. About being the one that could lean on, not out of mutual love, but out of convenience. As long as I stayed quiet and useful, I had a place in the family. The second I asked to be seen as more than that, I became difficult, ungrateful, overly sensitive. So when another message from my mom came in, just one line, this time, I didn't open it immediately. Can we just talk? Please. I sat with that for a while. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because for the first time in years, I was deciding whether I even wanted to. And just when I thought I might reply, the doorbell rang again. Not a knock this time. The bell. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tense. I crossed the living room, heart tapping that uneven rhythm again. This time, I didn't check the peephole. I just opened the door. And there, standing on my porch, was someone I hadn't seen in over a decade. My older sister. The one who'd moved away. The one who'd cut contact with everyone, including me. She was crying. Not the hysterical kind, not loud sobs, but the kind that comes from somewhere deep and exhausted. Her shoulders were trembling slightly, her arms crossed like she didn't know whether to hug me or bolt back to the car. I hadn't seen her since her wedding 12 years ago. After she left town, we exchanged a few texts here and there, but she faded out of the family orbit like a satellite cut loose. The stories the family told afterward were vague. She thinks she's too good for us now. Or, she just can't handle responsibility. Nobody ever really talked about her, and after a while, I stopped asking. Now she was on my porch. Hey, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. Hey. Neither of us moved for a moment, just standing there while the late afternoon sun slid lower behind her. Finally, I stepped aside and opened the door wider. You want to come in? She hesitated, then nodded. She took a seat at the kitchen table where Sarah had sat just hours earlier, and I poured us each a glass of water. Her eyes flicked over the manila folder still lying open. I heard, she said, taking a sip. Well, I didn't hear, I saw the fallout. Mom posted some cryptic status about betrayal and family who think money makes them better. Dad's been calling everyone. Even tried me. I raised an eyebrow. He called you. She gave a dry chuckle. Yeah, first time in 7 years. I didn't press her. I just waited. And after a few more moments, she leaned forward, elbows on the table. I came because I wanted to say I'm sorry. I blinked. For disappearing, she clarified. I left because I knew what they were. I just didn't have the words for it back then. I was in debt, exhausted, and they made me feel like I was failing at being their daughter. Every call was a guilt trip. Every favor came with a reminder of everything they'd ever done for me. I moved across the country just to breathe. I nodded slowly. And you didn't come back. I was scared, she admitted. Not of them, but of how easy it would have been to fall back into it. They make you feel like you owe them for existing. Yeah, I murmured. They do. She glanced at the folder. Sarah told me what happened. The cruise, the mortgage, The wallet with legs thing. I'm not surprised. But I am sorry they made you feel like that. I should have warned you. I should have. Stop, I said gently. You don't owe me anything. She went quiet for a moment, then gave me a long, searching look. Do you hate them? I let that question hang in the air. No, I finally said. But I don't trust them. And I don't think I want them in my life the way they are now. She nodded, looking relieved that I didn't try to justify it. Me neither. We talked for 2 hours. About childhood. About how we'd both been pushed into silence by different forms of guilt. About the way our parents weaponized every gift they ever gave us. About how love always came with a receipt. It was like finding a piece of yourself you didn't know was missing. And then, as she stood to leave, she pulled a crumpled envelope from her coat pocket. I almost didn't bring this, she said. But Mom made me promise to deliver it. I took it, but didn't open it. She said she'd changed, my sister added. That she wanted to talk. That she understood now. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if she ever can change. But I think she's scared. I nodded. Scared isn't the same as sorry. Exactly, she said. Then she hugged me. The first real hug I'd had in months. After she left, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, envelope in hand. Eventually, I opened it. It was short. Neat handwriting. Carefully written like someone had practiced the words a few times. Alex, I said something awful, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't hurt you. I don't expect forgiveness. But I am asking for a chance. A chance to learn what I missed. To rebuild something from the wreckage I caused. I've spent so long believing that providing for you made me a good parent. But I see now, you've been the one providing for us all along. I want to be your mother again, not your dependent. Please let me try. Mom. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just set the letter down, then picked up my phone and typed a message. Short. Clear. I got your letter. I'm not ready to talk, but I heard you. If you want to rebuild, it has to start with you fixing things on your own first. No money. No shortcuts. Just effort. Real effort. I hit send. No immediate reply. No typing bubbles. No fireworks. But I felt lighter. A week passed. Then 2. During that time, I didn't hear from my parents. But I did hear from Sarah again. She invited me to a small dinner, just a few cousins who'd cut ties with the family circus. People I hadn't realized were also quietly surviving their own version of this dysfunction. It felt good. Real. One night, while walking home from that dinner, I got a message from my dad. Just one line. Working again. Part-time. Don't worry, we'll be okay. It wasn't much, but it was something. And then, a few days later, my mom replied to my message. Thank you for reading it. I'll start with me. No asks. No complaints. Just that. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like a wallet. I felt like a person. It took months, but my boundaries held. I checked in occasionally, but I never stepped back into the role of fixer. They learned to manage things again. To survive without me fronting the bill. And slowly, awkwardly, we started talking. Really talking. Not out of obligation, but choice. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There were slip-ups. Relapses into guilt language. Tiny barbs masked as jokes. But this time, I called it out. And to their credit, they backed off. They listened. Because the only version of me they get to know now is the one who knows his worth. No longer a wallet with legs. Just a man standing tall.